will now come to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand for a moment of silence. Thank you. I would just like to say, under the moment of silence, my daughter texted me this policeman that got shot in Chicago the other night, that he was going to St. John the Baptist School in Whiting, that she went to school with him, and she just found out today that that was him, and he's from Hegwish and went to Mount Carmel and Brother Rice and all of that. So it's a tough job being a policeman nowadays or whatever. I mean, and, you know, I guess we could just pray to God on our own. Thank you. Reading of the minutes, Councilman Spitali.
Wait a minute.
Roll call.
Boy, oh boy, oh boy.
That suit's got you.
I'm shook up about the shootings and stuff and everything, so. Roll call.
Spitali.
Here.
Vines.
Here.
Kalwinski.
Here.
Torres.
Here.
Higgs. Emerson.
Here.
Warple.
Here.
Rakels. Here. Markovich.
Here, 8 present, 1 absent. Reading of the minutes, Councilman
Madam
Spitali.
Mr. President, accept the minutes from March 11, 2019, can be placed on file, please.
Second.
Motion by Councilman Spitali, second by Councilman Emerson, that the minutes be placed on file. Is there any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Approval of claims, Councilman Warple.
I make a motion, we accept the approval of claims, beginning with claims dated 3/6/19 and ending with claims dated 3/20/19. Claim number 1508 through claim number 1810 inclusive, for the grand total of $6,399,961.88. I so move.
Second.
Motion by Councilman Warple, second by Councilman Rakels for approval of the claims. Is there any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? Roll call.
Spitali.
Yes.
Vines.
Yes.
Kalwinski.
Yes.
Torres.
Yes.
Higgs. Emerson.
Yes.
Warple.
Yes.
Rakels.
Yes.
Markovich.
Yes. Claims approved, 8 in favor, 1 absent. Public hearings. City Clerk Golick.
Item A, ordinance 19-05, sponsored by Councilman Warple. An ordinance to amend ordinance 9363, 4487, 4851, 6099, 7429, 7830, 8211, 8471, 8845, and ordinance number 9412, also known as Chapter 35, as the Hammond Municipal Code as it pertains to the Hammond City Court and the orderly transition of cases in 2019. And also, item B, ordinance 1906, sponsored by Councilman Spitali, an ordinance to appropriate funds in the hotel, motel, innkeepers tax fund for economic development purposes in 2019.
Is there anybody that wishes to speak on public hearing under 1905 or 1906? Anyone wish to speak on 1905 or 1906? Anyone wish to speak on 1905, 1906? Public hearings are now closed. Item 6, communications. Anybody have any communications? Is there any communications? Communications are closed. Committee reports.
Mr. President,
Councilman Warple.
council as a whole will be bringing out 1905 and 1906.
Okay.
Mr. President,
Councilwoman Vines?
Yes, at this time, I would like to read the upcoming Community and Crime Watch meetings. On Wednesday, April 3rd, Edison Community Watch will meet at 6:30 p.m. at Edison School. On Tuesday, April 2nd, Harrison Park Crime Watch will meet at the VFW on Homan Avenue across from Harrison Park. On Friday, April 5th, Irving Community Watch will meet at Irving School. That is at 9:15 a.m., and that is a bilingual program. Pulaski Park Neighborhood Association will meet Tuesday, March 26, 6:30 p.m. at the American Legion on Goslin. Anyone who's interested in finding out what's going on in your neighborhood and finding out some helpful tips for the safety of your family and your property, I urge you to attend a community or crime watch meeting in your area, because community is not just about me, it's about us. Thank you.
Any other committee reports? Any other committee reports? Any other committee reports? Committee reports now closed. Ordinances for third and final passage.
Ordinance 1905, sponsored by Councilman Warple. An ordinance to amend Ordinance 9363, 4487, 4851, 6099, 7429, 7880, 8211, 8471, 8845, and Ordinance 9412, also known as Chapter 35 of the Hammond Municipal Code as it pertains to the Hammond City Court and orderly transition of cases in 2019.
Mr. President,
Councilman Warple.
I move for final passage and adoption of 1905.
Second.
Motion by Councilman Warple, second by Councilman Rakos for final passage and adoption of 1905. Is there any discussion?
Mr. President,
Councilman Warple.
I move that we amend 1905 in its entirety with 1905A.
Motion by Councilman Warple, second by Councilman Rakos, that 1905 be replaced in its entirety with 1905A. Is there any discussion?
Mr. President,
Councilman Warple.
basically 1905A is the same ordinance. It was just in the whereas part. The judge's office felt it necessary to change a little bit of the language, but there's no change to the further be it ordained part.
Any other discussion? Any other discussion? Roll call on 1905A.
Spitali.
Yes.
Vines.
Yes.
Kalwinski.
Yes.
Torres.
Yes.
Higgs. Emerson.
Yes.
Warple.
Yes.
Rakos.
Yes.
Markovich.
Yes, motion passes 8 in favor, 1 absent. On 1905, as amended by 1905A for final passage and adoption, is there any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? Roll call.
Spitali.
Yes.
Vines.
Yes.
Kalwinski.
Yes.
Torres.
Yes.
Higgs. Emerson.
Yes.
Warple.
Yes.
Rakos.
Yes.
Markovich.
Yes, motion passes 8 in favor, 1 absent.
Ordinance 19-06, sponsored by Councilman Spitali. An ordinance to appropriate funds in the hotel, motel, innkeepers tax funds for economic development purposes in 2019.
Mr. President,
Councilman Spitali.
final passage and adoption of 1906.
Motion
Second.
by Councilman Spitali, second by
Second.
Councilman Emerson for final passage of 19-06. Is there any discussion?
Mr. President,
Councilman Spitali.
the Economic Development Department requires an innkeeper's tax for marketing purposes, promotional events, and advertisement. The total amount is $20,622.53.
Any other discussion? Any discussion? Any other discussion? Roll call.
Spitali.
Yes.
Vines.
Yes.
Kalwinski.
Yes.
Torres.
Yes.
Higgs. Emerson.
Yes.
Warple.
Yes.
Rakels.
Yes.
Markovich.
Yes. Motion passes 8 in favor, 1 absent.
President Markovich, that concludes the ordinances for final passage.
Next item is item number 9, introductions of ordinances. City Clerk Golick.
Item A, ordinance 19-09, sponsored by Councilman Warple. An ordinance to appropriate monies into the 2019 gaming fund.
Mr. President,
Councilman Warple.
I move for pass on first and second reading. Put it in council as a whole on April 22nd, 2019 at 5:15 p.m. with a public hearing set for April 22nd.
Motion by Councilman Warple. Second. Oh, I'm sorry. Second by Councilman Spitali. 1909. Be passed on first and second reading, referred to council as a whole with a meeting at 5:15 on April 22nd with a public hearing also on April 22nd. Is there any discussion?
Mr. President,
Councilman Warple.
this is an ordinance for money that wasn't spent out of the district gaming balances in 2018 that were appropriated. And either the project came in under or the project wasn't done. It's just reappropriating it into the 2019 balances.
Any other discussion? Any other discussion? Any other discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it.
President Markovich, that concludes the introduction of ordinances.
Resolutions, we have none. New and unfinished business. Is there any new and unfinished business? Anybody have any new and unfinished business? New and unfinished, oh, I'm sorry.
Councilman
Mayor.
Markovich. I was going to give an update on the gaming situation in the Indiana General Assembly for you. And I know there's people watching on Go Hammond TV right now. I want to keep them in the loop. We were in Indianapolis last week testifying for the Public Policy Committee of the Indiana House on Gary's proposal to relocate their casino to 8094 and Burr Street. Even though the gaming proposal passed the Senate fairly easily, I feel like we're doing pretty well in the Indiana House right now. Representative Mark Candelaria Reardon and Representative Carolyn Jackson are both doing a great job representing Hammond and East Chicago. Representative Earl Harris has done a good job representing East Chicago. Him and I had a really long conversation last week. I feel like the forces on our side are a lot more represented in the Indiana House. They're asking questions that make a lot of sense, and you can tell from the tone of their questions there's some skepticism about Gary's proposal in the House, and I take that as a good sign. So I haven't been able to come here and give you too much good news with regards to Gary's proposal to relocate their casino. I want you to know that we're working on this every day of the week during the session. We have somebody in the State House every day of the week. We're down there as an administration quite often as well, and I think that things are starting to look a little bit better. We're not out of the woods by any stretch, and quite frankly, things could go bad and we could lose this, but for the first time in the entire session, it seemed like things started going in Hammond and in East Chicago's direction last week, so I take that as a good sign. And I wanted to give you guys an update, so I'm available to answer any questions you may have about this issue and about this bill in particular.
When does the session end this year? Do you know? It's a long session, correct?
No, I think this is a short session this year. They do the budget during the long session, so it should be done. Heather, do you know? Anybody? Oh, Heather's gone. No, I'm not sure. I think it's probably right around April. Dave?
I think when it's an election time, that's when it's a short session, so it's not election.
This is not a budget year, so what was that, Dave? I agree with Dave. It's early April. During the budget session, they go through April, and so this is a short session. So, but this is they're in the second half right now. This bill made it through the first half. So, I mean, Gary pushed it through the Senate, and it's in the House. And like in the House, I feel a lot better about our chances. And this is not a partisan issue. It's not just Democrats versus Republicans. This is an issue that it's strange. You have a lot of Republicans on Hammond's side in this case, and in East Chicago's side, and you have a lot of Democrats that are not on our side, obviously. Gary's a Democratic city. Indianapolis seems to be siding with Gary and their proposal, but it's all about the gaming communities. Evansville's with us. Lawrenceburg is with us. It's a strange issue. But like I said, we're not out of the woods by any stretch, and things could go wrong for us for sure. But it seems like right now, it looks better than it did 2 weeks ago. Any questions on that issue?
So, Mayor, my representative is Carolyn Jackson.
Yeah.
So would you recommend, like, for people watching to write their representative at this time?
I'm glad you asked that, Councilman Emerson. I think just letting Carolyn know you love her and you're watching helps her a lot, stiffens her spine, because there's tons of pressure on Representative Jackson, there's tons of pressure on Representative Candelaria Reardon, Representative Earl Harris, there's tons of pressure on them to not protect us. And I go down there and let them know that we're watching, and it's not a threat, everybody's watching this bill, and do the right thing for our city, and I want you to know that Carolyn's done a great job. She's meeting with us regularly. She knows who our lobbyist is. She works with us, but make no mistake about it, Representative Carolyn's under a tremendous amount of lobbying pressure not to support her own constituents in this case. Representative Candelaria Reardon is a fighter, and she's with us. Earl Harris and I had a great meeting last week. He's with us. Mayor Copeland's done a great job in East Chicago, rallying employees of Ameristar. Numerous people were down there with buttons that said, "Save my job." So I think that things are finally starting to come back in our favor a little bit. I'm not saying we're done, but for the first time, I have good news to report in a long time on this issue.
Mr. Chairman,
Councilman Kowinski?
we had a correspondence from State Rep Carolyn Jackson that says, "I will be hosting a public forum at the Hammond Public Library at 564 East State Street on April 5th, 2019, from 5:30 p.m. to 7 p.m. My co-host will be Representative Earl Harris, Representative Mara Candelaria Reardon, and Senator Lonnie Randolph. So there'll be an opportunity for the public and ourselves to meet and talk about that issue and others.
Thanks, Councilman. Unfortunately, during that, the damage will either be, although if it gets through the House and they're reconciling it, I think Councilman Mark is very correct in pointing out we should go there, but I also think Councilman Emerson's correct. Also, a phone call, you don't have to write a letter, even an email contact, letting her know we're watching and we need you to be strong for us, Representative. I think that goes a long way, and I appreciate Councilman Mark for bringing that up, but I think our reps are doing a good job for us in the House, and obviously there's tons of pressure on them. It's
President.
the forces of evil in this case, in my opinion. The people that bought Ameristar, Rod Radcliffe, not that he's a force of evil, he's hired almost everybody in the State House. It's unbelievable. They do it to conflict everybody out, and they have so much money. They're hiring everybody. It's like our team is very small in the State House. Everybody's working for Majestic Star right now, everybody in the State House. So they all get conflicts of interest, and they have to sit it out, but they took one of our good lobbyists, and they conflicted him out on this case because he had already been a client of Rod Radcliffe, so he's out, and that's our guy. It's a very frustrating, I mean, when you're up against humongous money, which we are, this guy's, he just sold his casino to Caesars. He's got money, and he's hiring everybody, and he knows these people, he's known them for decades. This is a very, very serious threat, very serious threat. So if we come out unscathed on this, we owe Andy Miller a bottle of Don Perignon, I'm telling you, because he's been busting his butt for us. Andy Miller, our lobbyist, he's been doing a great job for us. So it's been very stressful, I'm not going to lie. Councilman, I didn't mean to cut you off.
What was the date of that meeting again?
April 5th, 5:30 to 7:30 at the Hammond Public Library. It's a Friday.
And Councilman Markovich, if we're done with this issue, could I bring up one more issue that came up recently? Since it seems like we're cruising through this council meeting pretty quickly. I updated you all in caucus about a case that the city of Hammond had go to the Indiana Supreme Court. Came back with a victory for the city of Hammond. And we thought by winning this case, it was about rental registration. As you all know, we used to charge $80, and then the state legislature targeted Hammond and specifically lowered us, which is against the Indiana Constitution. So we filed a lawsuit against the state of Indiana to challenge this ordinance, and it went up, and we won, and it went up on the Court of Appeals, and it got accepted by the Indiana Supreme Court, and they affirmed that the Indiana legislature targeted the city of Hammond and created special legislation. So we thought that because of that victory, that we would be able to charge higher than $5. And instead, what the legislature did was took the two cities that were charging higher, Bloomington and West Lafayette, and they forced them to charge $5. So we won, but West Lafayette and Bloomington got screwed because of the lawsuit. So I apologize to the residents of West Lafayette and Bloomington. We were hoping we would be able to be treated the way they were being treated, and instead, the Supreme Court stuck it to them, and they're down with us, and we had it stuck to us by the Indiana General Assembly. So I think it's great that we won a Supreme Court case. It's sad that the legislature targeted the city of Hammond, and we won, but unfortunately, it didn't turn out the way we hoped it would. So I just wanted to update you on that as well, Councilman.
Thank you. Let the record show that Councilman Higgs now is present at the
Thank you,
council
Council.
meeting. Any other new and unfinished business? Any other new and unfinished business?
Mr. President,
Councilman Higgs.
recently some residents contacted me about 24 and 38, I think it's Ruth Street, the abandoned building that's been there for quite some time. Maybe the mayor can give me an update as to what's the status of that property.
What is this now? What property?
It's a vacant property on Ruth Street. It's a building that's been vacant just from Ruth and State Line. It's been vacant for quite some time, so maybe he knows what's the status of it.
Councilman Markovich,
Mayor?
we have 30,000 houses in the city of Hammond.
Okay.
30,000.
I thought maybe you knew, perhaps, maybe.
I have a house that's 2 doors away from my house. I was going to ask you a couple questions about it. Could you come up with the answers off the top of your head?
If I was your district councilman, I
Really? All right. Thanks, Councilman Hicks.
Thank you. Maybe you may want to send a letter to code enforcement?
Yeah, I can.
311.
I can.
Any other?
I would like to send a letter, Councilman Markovich, to.
Motion by Councilman Higgs, second by, is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Councilman Torres. Now, Councilman Higgs, would you please state what you want to say in the letter, please?
This basically what's the status on the property, if it's gonna be demoed or is it gonna stay?
Do you know the address?
Yes, 24 to 38, it's a big building. It's probably a half a block long.
24 or 28 DeRuth Street?
Yep. They'll know which property it is. There's also a couple other properties over there, but I'll discuss that with them later. But that property's been vacant for a number of years.
Any other new and unfinished business? Any other new and unfinished business? Any other new and unfinished business? New and finished business is closed. Public expression, we have one person, George Stoya.
George Stoyer, Robertsdale. I've got some handouts, Bob. Could you hand them out to the councilman?
What's that, George?
I've got some handouts for each of the councilmen so that this goes a little more efficiently. This is the original. These are the copies. With respect, in front of you, you'll find an article in the Northwest Indiana Times about the recent negotiated settlement between Indiana Water and, I guess, the town of Maryville. And what makes it apt and relevant is it was something negotiated by the Office of Utility Consumer Counsel, the thing that I've been advocating for. In addition to that, just to contextualize the article, to give you a better, perhaps frame it a little bit better, I've included Indiana Code Sections 1-1.13 for on the consumer counselor and his powers and duties, and it's pretty easy reading, really. So I included it, and I wanted it. I don't know how to do this because I've first time I've ever done this. Whether to include it, I wanted it included as part of my letter to the council that you guys entered into the record for Ordinance 18-33 to supplement that discussion, or to my letter, or both, or to have it accepted as part of the official explanation that was supposed to have been That was supposed to have been done during the two public meetings. Short of that, I'd like to have it admitted to this meeting, too. I don't know which one, or all the above, or whatever the case may be. The point being is, as the mayor just talked about, the idea of being conflicted. The Indiana American was asking for a 17.9 water rate increase. And the utility council knocked it down almost about 9.6, almost 10% he knocked off of their rates. And you council, I assume you guys are going to be riding herd over the water department submissions for rates and bonds and all that other good stuff. And these statutes will give you an idea of what was available to the consumer counselor that is no longer available to us citizens of Hammond. And your burden, in addition to some of the conflicts that you may be confronting, in fact and otherwise, is before you. So I don't know what else I can add to that, but there you have it.
Thank you. That concludes public expression. The chair would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Motion by Councilwoman Vaness, second by Councilman Spitali. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion approved.